There is a type of grain that appears almost every morning on the tables of millions of people. It is mixed with milk, with fruit, and is called a healthy choice, the breakfast of busy people, of those on a diet, of those who care about their health. But what few people know is that for a very long time, this grain was not grown to feed humans. It was once considered a weed. It once stood on the margins of agriculture, on the margins of meals, and on the margins of value. So what happened? Why did something once considered ordinary become a symbol of modern eating habits? Why do people believe that it is good for the heart, helps keep you full, stabilizes energy, and fits the fast pace of this century? And more importantly, where did that belief come from? We often think that foods that are good for health have always been valued by humans from the beginning. But the history of oats tells a different story, a story of quiet adaptation, of a plant born in harsh lands, of how humans gradually changed the way they saw it, the way they cultivated it, and eventually the way they brought it into everyday life. Before talking about fiber, protein, or health benefits, perhaps the more important question is this: what exactly are oats? And why, after everything they have gone through, are they still here today on our tables? Oats are a whole grain that belongs to the grass family. Their scientific name is Avena sativa. If placed beside familiar names such as wheat or rice, oats do not stand out because of their appearance, nor because of their flavor. Raw oat grains are pale in color, neutral in taste, and do not create a strong impression at first encounter. Yet, it is precisely this simplicity that has allowed oats to endure within the history of human food. The most important difference of oats lies in their whole grain structure. When used properly, oats retain the bran and the germ, where most of the fiber, protein, and micronutrients are concentrated. This makes oats different from many refined grain products, which often retain only the easily digestible starch, while losing much of their nutritional value. Oats are also a crop that adapts well to cool climates and soils that are not particularly fertile. They do not require ideal growing conditions to develop. For centuries, this characteristic connected oats with colder regions, with communities that needed a crop that was resilient, stable, and less risky to grow. Today, oats appear in many different forms in modern life, yet their nature remains unchanged. They provide a slow and steady source of energy that fits easily into many eating habits. That is why oats are not only a food, but have become part of the daily rhythm of life for many people. To understand why oats gained this position, we need to return to their beginning. Where did oats come from, and how did humans begin using them in the earliest periods of history? Oats did not enter human history as a highly valued crop. The earliest evidence suggests that oats appeared as a companion plant, growing among wheat and barley in the temperate regions of Europe and Asia. For many centuries, they were regarded as secondary, even as weeds, because their grains were not easy to grind, not easy to turn into bread, and did not fit the ancient standards of staple foods that favored grains providing quick energy and pleasing appearance. Yet in colder regions, where the climate was harsher and growing seasons were shorter, oats began to prove their value. When wheat struggled, oats still grew. When soil lacked fertility, oats still produced grain. People in Northern Europe, Central Europe, and parts of Asia gradually realized that, although oats were not impressive, they provided stability. They were not the crop of prosperity, but the crop of survival. In the early stages, oats were used mainly as feed for livestock. In many societies, humans eating oats was once associated with poverty and lack of choice. However, in communities that frequently faced cold climates and food shortages, that boundary slowly faded. Oats began appearing in human meals, not because they were delicious, but because they sustained people through long winters. Over time, the role of oats changed gradually. As humans understood more about processing, cooking, and storing them, oat grains became easier to use. From a plant once overlooked, oats slowly became a familiar part of the diets of many regions. especially in places that valued resilience and practicality more than appearance. The journey of oats shows an important truth. The value of food is not determined only by its early reputation, but by its ability to adapt to humans and the conditions in which they live. From this point, the story of oats enters another stage, when humans did not only use them but began intervening more deeply to change both their form and their role. When oats were no longer seen merely as a plant growing at the edges of wheat fields, humans began to look at them differently. From a species that survived through resilience, oats gradually entered intentional farming systems. Farmers selected grains that produced more stable yields, thinner husks, and were easier to harvest and process. Over many generations, oats were domesticated to better match the practical needs of human life, rather than simply growing in their original natural form. The cultivation of oats progressed quietly but steadily. Unlike grains favored in rich agricultural lands, oats continued to thrive in colder climates and harsher soils. For this reason, countries with long winters and difficult growing conditions, such as Canada and Russia, gradually became major centers of oat production. In these regions, oats were not chosen for luxury, but for stability and long-term adaptability. Along with expanding cultivation, humans also changed the way oat grains were processed after harvest. Instead of simply grinding them roughly or cooking them directly, methods of cleaning, rolling, and cutting the grains were developed. From these methods came the familiar forms of oats we know today, such as rolled oats and steel-cut oats, which reduce cooking time and increase their practicality in everyday meals. These changes did not remove the nature of oats, but helped them enter modern life more naturally. Human intervention moved oats beyond the role of a secondary crop and into the position of a clearly recognized food. Yet what is remarkable is that even with improvements in form and processing, the core value of oats still lies in their whole grain structure and their ability to provide stable energy. From this foundation, modern nutritional science began to explain why oats fit the human body in such a sustainable way. When modern nutritional science began analyzing oats systematically, the first thing that drew attention was not the number of vitamins or minerals they contained, but the way the human body responded to them after eating. Oats do not deliver energy in a rapid surge. They provide a slow, steady, and manageable flow of energy. This characteristic distinguishes oats from many refined grains. The most important component in oats is a soluble fiber called beta-glucan. This fiber forms a gel-like layer in the digestive tract. Once inside the body, this gel slows the digestion of carbohydrates, allowing blood sugar to rise gradually instead of spiking quickly. At the same time, it slows the absorption of cholesterol in the intestines. This mechanism explains why oats are often mentioned in dietary patterns aimed at supporting heart health and blood sugar control. In addition to fiber, oats are one of the few grains with a relatively high protein content. The protein in oats is not primarily focused on building muscle, but on supporting fullness and maintaining energy over time. Combined with fiber, protein helps oats create a sense of lasting satisfaction, instead of delivering energy followed by rapid hunger. Oats also provide important minerals that support biological processes in the body, including magnesium, phosphorus, and manganese. These minerals contribute to energy metabolism, nervous system activity, and muscle function. While their effects may not be immediately noticeable, they help maintain long-term stability in the body when oats are consumed regularly. A lesser-known but distinctive feature of oats is the presence of unique antioxidant compounds, especially avenanthramides. These compounds are associated with protecting blood vessels and reducing low-level inflammatory responses in the body. They do not function like a powerful medicine, but rather play a supportive role in creating a more stable biological environment over time. Overall, the nutritional value of oats does not lie in a single component, but in the harmony between fiber, protein, and micronutrients. This balance allows oats to align naturally with the biological rhythm of the human body. When these mechanisms are placed within daily life, they begin to translate into very real benefits that many people can experience. When the nutritional mechanisms of oats are placed into daily life, their value becomes easier to recognize, not in a laboratory, but in the way people feel after a meal. Oats do not create short-term excitement, they create stability. And for many people, that is exactly what matters most. For cardiovascular health, the benefits of oats come from regular use rather than from a single meal. Beta-glucan fiber helps reduce the amount of harmful cholesterol absorbed into the bloodstream, supporting healthier blood vessel function over time. This is why oats often appear in dietary patterns focused on heart health, particularly for adults and older individuals. For those concerned about blood sugar, oats provide a greater sense of stability than many other carbohydrate sources. By slowing digestion, oats allow blood sugar levels to rise gradually, avoiding strong fluctuations after meals. This is particularly meaningful for individuals at risk of blood sugar imbalance or those trying to maintain steady energy throughout long working days. Lasting fullness is another noticeable benefit. The combination of fiber and protein helps reduce the urge to snack, especially in the morning. For busy individuals, a simple meal that provides lasting satisfaction helps them focus without constantly thinking about eating again. The digestive system is another place where oats quietly show their value. The fiber in oats nourishes the gut microbiome, supporting digestion that becomes more regular and comfortable over time. This is not an instant effect, but a gradual improvement when oats become a familiar part of the diet. These benefits show that oats are not designed to create rapid change, but to support long-term stability. To fully benefit from them, the way oats are used and the considerations that accompany their use are equally important. The value of oats does not lie only in the grain itself, but also in how people use them in daily life. Oats can be cooked, soaked, or combined with various foods, but they all share one common requirement. They need sufficient time and water to express their whole grain structure. When cooked properly, oats become easier to digest and allow the body to absorb their fiber more effectively. Among the common forms available today, less processed oats tend to retain more of their natural characteristics compared with instant products. Types that require longer cooking times often create a longer-lasting feeling of fullness and cause fewer energy fluctuations after meals. This approach suits individuals who seek stability rather than immediate convenience. Oats are also easy to combine with other foods. When eaten with fruit, nuts, or milk, the meal becomes more nutritionally balanced. This combination does not aim to make oats extraordinary, but simply allows them to integrate naturally into human daily routines. However, oats may not suit everyone in every situation. For some individuals with sensitive digestion, consuming large amounts of oats in a short time may lead to bloating. In addition, people monitoring carbohydrate intake or following specialized diets should pay attention to portion size and preparation methods. In another context, oats are also used in skincare products due to their ability to soothe and protect the skin barrier. This shows that the value of oats is not limited to food but extends into other practical areas of life. When used appropriately and in balanced amounts, oats become a foundational food, not dramatic, but dependable. And it is this dependability that allows oats to maintain their place in the modern world. Looking back at the entire journey of oats, what stands out is not simply the nutrients they contain, but the way they have quietly adapted to human life over time. From a plant once considered secondary, oats have become a familiar choice in modern living, where people increasingly value stability rather than quick but short-lived solutions. Oats do not promise miracles, they do not deliver instant transformation. Instead, they represent a practical approach to nutrition, in which value emerges through consistency, through small choices repeated every day. In a world that moves quickly, this quiet persistence has become more relevant than ever. Perhaps that is why oats are still here today. Not as a passing trend, but as part of everyday life. A food that does not need to impress, yet remains reliable enough for people to return to again and again. And when you place a bowl of oats in front of you, perhaps the most important question is not simply what you are eating, but what kind of rhythm of life you are choosing.